The president says he's open to a short-term clean bill to fund the government, but are congressional Democrats with him? Let's talk to one of them, Democratic Senator Bob Casey of the great state of Pennsylvania. Good to see you, Senator.
Good to be with you.
And I should disclose, I'm from Pennsylvania.
We're glad you are.
Do you support a potential short-term spending bill, 6 weeks maybe, lift the debt ceiling, reopen the government, and then maybe have conversations? Was that something you could go along with?
Well, Jake, as you know, and I'm just holding this document, this is a 16-page bill to open. This is the key to opening the government. That's in front of the House. They should pass it. What this does is keep the government open until the middle of November, and then we could have a lot of discussions. But the key thing right now is the House should vote today to open the government. They should vote to pay our bills, and then we can have lots of negotiations. I would argue, Jake, that it's not been reported much, but I would argue that we negotiated and compromised weeks ago when we agreed to a $70 billion cut, and they didn't agree to, or they wouldn't go along with their end of the deal, which is to keep the government open.
Well, that's what Senate Democrats say, Harry Reid and others, that they negotiated with John Boehner. He agreed to this. It was actually a big concession by Democrats, according to this account. But then Boehner went back and he couldn't get his caucus to go along with it.
$70 billion is a lot of money. And look, we're not asking for something that's unreasonable. We're saying open the government up and then and make sure we don't default. And once you do those two things, then there's lots to negotiate. But this idea that somehow we're going to have some kind of a meeting to talk about how the government opens, when all they need to do is pass this bill. It's 16 pages. They could read it in short order, vote on it this afternoon, and the government could be open before tomorrow morning.
The shutdown obviously started because House Republicans insisted on tying defunding Obamacare to spending the government. That's just a fact. But now we're all in this place. And while it's true that House Republicans are taking a beating in public opinion polls, although Democrats aren't doing much better, but House Republicans are getting the brunt of it. According to a new CBS News poll, 76% of the American people think the president and Democrats should compromise in order to come to an agreement. Do the Democrats bear any responsibility now? I will posit that this is, for the purpose of this question, that this is all the Republicans' fault that we're here. But even with that in mind, do Democrats have any responsibility for offering some more concessions or anything to help get us out?
There's a bill sitting there that they can vote on today.
Are you saying that is the concession?
16 pages that can keep the government open. But look, I think that there are lots of Republicans and certainly lots of Democrats and independents who want to move forward. The problem we have is it's a Tea Party shutdown. The Tea Party is preventing the opening up of the government. Why else would Speaker Boehner months ago say to Harry Reid and in essence say to his whole caucus, we're going to agree to keep the government open if you agree to have that $70 billion cut. He went back to the Tea Party and they vetoed that, and they've been vetoing ever since the opening of the government.
One of the things that Republicans have asked for and attached to some of their spending bills, their government spending bills, is a repeal of the medical device tax, which is part of Obamacare. You've been very critical of that tax. Why not just...
I've supported a repeal, but the idea that when you want something done on your list of priorities, that you're going to threaten the full faith and credit of the United States and potentially default, or I should say by way of a default, and that you're going to shut the government down. Harry Reid gave an example today where he was unalterably opposed to the war in Iraq and contemplated, at least thought about the idea of trying to move in the direction of a shutdown. He abandoned that idea because he said, I can't shut the government down because I disagree with a policy, one particular policy, even something as grave as a question of war. So if that's the approach that Democrats have taken when their core issue, in that case the war in Iraq, was at stake, I don't see how Tea Party Republicans can say that unless they get their way on defunding or substantially changing Obamacare that we should shut the government down.
We all know now that we're looking for a way out. In the past, negotiations between Vice President Biden and the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell have actually helped. There have been two impasses, I think. The last one of these debt ceiling debates, and then also the midnight thing on New Year's about the Bush tax cuts. There's a Politico story out today saying that Harry Reid insisted to the White House, Biden can't be doing that this time. Don't you think that maybe at this late hour, so close to the debt ceiling, we'd benefit from Biden trying to help?
Jake, I don't think you necessarily need a new player in this debate. I think it's very clear. You know Eastern Pennsylvania. You have in our congressional delegation several Republicans, as many as 5 in the last couple of weeks, have said They will vote for a clean funding bill to keep the government operating. That's not agreeing to much, by the way, because it's only going to be short term.
Just till November.
Because you've got a bipartisan agreement in Pennsylvania, in our delegation, which is very diverse, to vote for a clean funding bill to keep the government open, and therefore to negotiate